Hi, it's me, Timmy, from the prestigious academic research think tank Tim Jong-un Productions. Today, I want to have a serious discussion about a serious topic. Anime titties and harem manga. Ha! Nice try. You probably thought I was going to spiral into some weeb degeneracy frenzy. Yeah, right. Come on. Who do you think you're talking to? Timmy from Tim Jong-un Productions, the most professional, serious YouTube channel ever. I never talk about something so unchristian and lewd as big, busty anime milkers. No, that's for a future video I'll be making where I talk about hentai, but in the meantime, like I mentioned in the beginning, I want to divert your attention to a more serious topic, harem manga, particularly this harem manga. We Never Learn, or Bokuben as it's called in Japanese, is a manga series written and illustrated by Taishi Tsutsui. The basic premise is that it follows a young high school student who's tasked with tutoring 3 female geniuses in order to get a scholarship for university, but as they spend more and more time with each other, they all start falling in love with the guy, and once you throw in a hot teacher and a university student, you basically have harem story 69,420. Now, I'm just gonna preface right now, it literally does not matter whether you have read the manga or watched the anime. That has very little relevance to what I will be talking about in this video. I won't spoil anything if you're that curious to check the story out, but it's basically your standard harem anime filled with likable yet cliche characters that you've probably seen before, and believe me, as someone who's watched a lot of harem anime, like a lot, like way more than I can admit to myself without feeling some level of shame, as far as harem manga / anime go, on a scale from actually good to Rent a Girlfriend, this one falls somewhere in the better than nothing category. While there's definitely some charm and likable characters, We Never Learn for the most part is a standard harem story. At least that's what I would have said if the mangaka didn't do something amazing and even revolutionary, and that's how he chose to end the manga series. You see, instead of just writing one definitive ending where the main character finally decides to be with one of the girls from the harem and then goes off riding into the sunset, Tsutsui chose to write 5 different endings where in each separate ending the main character picks a different girl from the harem and deciding to marry each of them. And by doing this, Tsutsui creates a series of endings where pretty much everyone wins, as whoever the main character ends up marrying is entirely dependent on which of these 5 girls is your favorite. So for example, let's say Fumino is your preferred choice of the 5 waifus, then in your eyes, her ending is the quote definitive ending. Now, whether you believe there's an actual true or definitive ending is entirely subject to debate, and for anyone who has read the entire manga or watched the anime, I'll just let you decide that for yourselves. But essentially, the main important thing is that Tsutsui created a situation where pretty much any ending is considered the quote canon ending. It's why even after Tsutsui ended the main story of We Never Learn, he still made the decision to create additional endings, because that way he can let the fans decide which ending they prefer. Now, while some have criticized this move for being pandering, as the author isn't exactly standing behind any particular ending, I think this approach to concluding a harem manga / anime is actually kind of awesome and even genius, because what's crazy about all of this is that for whatever reason, no other harem story has ever actually attempted to end their series this way. No other harem manga or anime has ever attempted to provide multiple endings, or at least alternate endings, since what tends to happen within this genre is that the author tends to pretty much be dead set on a specific girl, and so in spite of whatever bullshit happens within the story or who the fans consider to be best girl of that story, the main character usually ends up with whoever the fuck the mangaka wants them to end up with. And while that does result in a sense of closure, it can still be incredibly unsatisfying to certain fans who may have liked one of the other girls over the one the MC picked. It's why visual novels are super popular amongst the anime community, because by playing a visual novel, you essentially have the same experience that you would reading a harem manga, with the only difference being is that the player gets to decide who the MC decides to end up with. If there's a certain waifu that the player considers to be best girl, then the player can create an ending where the MC chooses to be with that particular waifu, so in that sense, there aren't really any, quote, losers, as everyone wins. And I think that's what's so revolutionary and unique about We Never Learn having so many endings, because the way Tsutsui decides to end the manga is very reminiscent of how visual novels end. If you ask me, this everyone wins approach is a genius way of ending a harem series, and the fact that it took until We Never Learn for the idea of even having alternate endings to even come to fucking existence, all is just shocking to me. Like, how in the fuck has no one else come up with this idea? Like, it's one thing for an author of a harem manga to go, no, fuck you, this is the definitive ending. This generic dumbass protagonist is gonna end up with this cute waifu, and that's that. If the author has a particular ending in mind, then that's entirely their choice, so in that sense, I understand. But if the mangaka doesn't particularly give a shit about having multiple endings, then I don't know, why aren't there more harem stories that have multiple endings like We Never Learn? You see, after I finished reading the manga, I scoured through the internet to see if there are any other harem story that had this visual novel approach involving multiple endings, and the only other example that I could find was a manga called Love and Lies. Now, I had never even heard of this manga, much less know what it's about, but from what I uncovered using my slick-ass detective skills is that this manga will apparently have 2 endings, with each one exploring a timeline where the main character chooses either one girl or the the other. I'm sorry, so you're telling me that this has only happened twice within the harem genre ever? What? Once again, I have to ask, why are we not doing this more? I would love to see more harem stories like this have multiple endings. That way there can be an ending that almost everyone can be satisfied with. But even if you don't give a shit about stuff like that, I feel like from a business perspective, wouldn't it make more sense to have multiple endings for these harem stories anyway? Like, I don't know, I'm not some expert in the manga publishing industry or anything, but I feel like by having multiple endings, wouldn't that incentivize fans to continue reading the manga and buy more copies? Like, if the manga readers are already satisfied with an ending that they already got, I feel like they would at least be curious to read the other endings just to see how they turn out, right? I mean, that's what I did with We Never Learn. Even though I got the ending that I wanted, I still chose to read the other storylines just so I could see what they were like, and I know others agree with me. I can understand anime not doing something like this because animation is expensive and anime studios are usually stretched thin because they have to work on multiple anime series back to back, so they wouldn't have time to have multiple endings even if they wanted to. But with manga, I mean, I don't know, manga is serialized already with a consistent schedule, so I don't really see the harm in cranking out alternate endings, and if your fan base is passionate enough about the source material, then I bet my sweet but not that fine ass that they'll consume all that shit. But I don't know, in the end, this is all the opinion of one dumbass weeb. What do I know? I'm just the guy who literally talked about harem anime for 7 minutes. I guess putting We Never Learn as my thumbnail was kind of misleading since I just talked about its ending on a conceptual level more than anything pertaining to the manga/anime itself, but oh well, still felt like a somewhat productive use of my time. I mean, as productive as talking about harem anime can be. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this subject matter. Go form your own opinion, I guess, and let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me or not. I'm Timmy, the #1 cultured anime manga enthusiast, signing off. Thank you, and goodbye.